Magna Carta, meaning the Great Charter, is one of the most famous documents in the world. Sealed by King John at Runnymede in 1215, it established the idea that even kings are subject to the law. It has inspired generations since, and this is the story of where it all began. To understand John, often described as the worst king in English history, we first need to look at his family. John's father, Henry II, is remembered for the murder of Thomas Becket, his old friend and Archbishop of Canterbury, and faced rebellions led by his own sons. Richard the Lionheart, John's elder brother, may have been a great military commander, but he also cost the country vast sums of money for his crusade and then ransom when he was captured while returning. What then made John a bad king? John inherited a country tired of war, and so he made peace with King Philip of France, handing over land and money to seal the deal. For some, this was a mark of weakness that earned John the name Soft Sword. There were also stories that John murdered his own nephew Arthur of Brittany. The 16-year-old had a rival claim to the throne and had been captured by John while trying to capture and use his own grandmother for leverage. Disaster then struck in 1204. Philip invaded Normandy, and then Anjou and Poitou. John now governed England with one aim: to raise enough money to reconquer the lands he had lost. The sums he demanded and his methods earned him many enemies. A baron paying his taxes. A knight is asked to provide money instead of service. A widow waits to be sold. And barons buying justice. John also made enemies with the church over who should be Archbishop of Canterbury, intimidating the monks into accepting his choice. When he heard of this, Pope Innocent III was furious, overturned the decision, and appointed Stephen Langton. John responded by chasing the monks out of Canterbury and taking church property. The Pope then closed the churches of England for 5 years. When John heard news that the French planned to invade, he made a humiliating surrender to Pope Innocent's ambassador, placing himself and England under the Pope's protection. However, John had now raised enough money to launch his own invasion and reconquer his family lands. But John was not a skilled or lucky military leader. His armies were defeated, his plans lay in ruins, and he had nothing to show his barons for years of heavy taxes. The barons had had enough. They were not going to fund any more wars and wanted guarantees from John that he would change his ways. Having captured London without a fight, the rebels met John at Runnymede. There, after days of negotiation, on the 15th of June 1215, he agreed to their demands. The resulting charter would become known as Magna Carta. Magna Carta is 63 clauses long and contained remedies for all that the barons felt had been wrong with how John and his family had ruled England. Among its 3,550 words are clauses that guarantee the freedom of the church, protect widows and heirs from exploitation, stopped royal officials seizing property without consent or compensation, returned all the hostages John had taken from his barons to ensure their good behaviour, restored the right to forage, graze animals, and find firewood in woodlands recently turned into private royal forests, demanded that the general consent of the realm must be sought before raising taxes, guaranteed that no man would be imprisoned except by the lawful judgment of his peers or the law of the land, and that the king could not delay, deny, or sell justice. This was not the end of the story though. John appealed to the Pope for help, who declared Magna Carta null and void, invalid forever. The Civil War Magna Carta was supposed to stop resumed, and John's armies punished the North for its part in the rebellion. However, John's successes were short-lived. He first lost the royal treasure in the quicksand of the Wash, and then died of dysentery. John left his 9-year-old son to become king. Henry III's ministers then reissued Magna Carta. A failed peace treaty became instead a freely given manifesto of good government. Peace was restored, and the Charter began its 800-year-old career of being used to hold those in power to account.